Hey MMA fans, Cage Minds, your host Micah Frankel, here to do our recap of UFC 145. Tell you who won, who lost, how they did it, what happened in the fight, and who walked away with bonuses. Get right to the action. First fight we're talking about is Marcus Brimage versus Maximo Blanco. We had predicted the unorthodox, crazy striking style of Maximo Blanco to play dividends, and for him to catch Brimage with a kick or a knee to the head and end this fight in the first round. It was a crazy striking display by both men. They were very aggressive, coming back and forth, but neither man really stood in the pocket. Both used movement to get out of the way of a big flurry. Throughout the contest, the straighter punches and the reach advantage of Marcus Brimage was paying dividends. We went to the judges in a split decision. Marcus Brimage gets the victory. The cleaner striking technique, picking apart his opponent with the jab and keeping him on the end of the jab. Great display, 2-0 in the UFC now for Marcus Brimage. Next matchup we're talking about Keith Wisniewski versus Chris Clements. We had predicted that Wisniewski would use his grappling advantage, drag this fight to the ground in the third round, and get a rear naked choke. It was very dangerous for him, though, in our prediction because of Chris Clements' striking capabilities. Chris Clements, powerful striker, in the fight, beat up Wisniewski. Wisniewski seems to be made of rubber. He was not willing to be taken out, did not go down, showed a lot of heart. In the third round, did get it to the ground, did get the back, left me hopeful for my prediction to come true, but Clements was able to land elbows even with Wisniewski on his back from behind. Great self-defense technique that seemed to really hurt Wisniewski. Even though he had some good positions, he really didn't do effective striking. And we go to the judges' scorecard, and Chris Clements wins with a split decision. A funky split decision, I'd say, because it was 29-28 for each of them. And then the third judge actually had a completely 30-27 for Chris Clements. So depending how you watched the fight, how you felt about the fight is how you saw it. But Clements walks away with a split decision. Next matchup we're talking about, matchup between former Ultimate Fighter winners, Matt Danzig, Efren Escudero. We had picked Matt Danzig to win a unanimous decision, pushing the pace, being more consistent, pushing that pace, keeping his energy up. He's fighting with his back against the wall, with both guys coming off of losses, and Danzig just fights inspired with his back up against the wall. Escudero, he just doesn't push the pace enough, so I had a problem picking him. Go to the action. Danzig, cleaner boxing versus the Taekwondo styling of Escudero. Danzig just coming straight through the middle with the jab, picking his opponent apart, grabbing the clinch, walking Escudero down the cage, and unleashing with body shots. A unanimous decision victory is what we predicted, and it's what happened for Matt Danzig in his victory over Efren Escudero. Next matchup we're talking about, this one we knew was going to be all striking. John the Bull McDessie versus Anthony the Assassin Njokuani. We had predicted for Njokuani to win. His reach, his use of leg kicks, too long, too far away from McDessie to get inside, and that's what happened. And Njokuani picked his opponent apart, used his right leg kick to the left leg of McDessie, also switch kicking up to the shoulders, kicks a lot in the arms. McDessie solidly lost this fight, 30-27, a unanimous decision actually, all striking. Anthony Njokuani is victorious. Next matchup we're talking about, Matt the Immortal Brown versus Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. We have predicted for Thompson to unleash with his strikes, keep it at distance, and then win the fight after Brown's hurt on the ground in the second round with a rear naked choke. That really didn't happen. Matt Brown turned this into a brawl, made it gritty and ugly. There were points in the second round where Wonderboy Thompson was picking him apart, but just didn't have the strength or the energy to finish the fight off. Brown ran away from Thompson several times, trying to avoid being hit. It was basically an ugly brawl of a fight, not really a technical mixed martial arts fight. Wonderboy was disappointing in the fact that his takedown defense looked horrible. At Stygian, he was able to keep it at distance in that fight in his debut. Brown, having no part of that, walked him down, made it a close quarter brawl, put a lot of grappling on Thompson, and in the second round, both guys just looked horribly gassed. Both need to work on their cardio, grapple a little more so that they don't get as tired. Matt Brown gets the win. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson goes back to the drawing board. Now for the last of our prelims, Travis Hopper Brown versus Chad the Gravedigger Griggs. We had predicted for Brown to win this fight with leg kicks, with movement, picking his opponent apart, because Griggs comes in, again, just to brawl, just comes in to knock your head off. It would be dangerous if Brown let him get inside. So we had predicted a unanimous decision. What ends up happening is that the two men are a little more controlled than I expected from Chad Griggs. He throws some leg kicks. Brown is actually throwing some leg kicks, walks him down, grabs the Muay Thai clinch, comes flying in after he's unable to get it, comes flying back in with a big double knee, hitting Griggs, grabbing the Muay Thai clinch, following Griggs to the ground, and Brown is able to lock in an arm triangle and get the second submission victory of his career. So Travis Hopper Brown shows that he's improving. Chad Griggs just breaks his 3-fight winning streak. Back to the drawing board for him. And now we go on to that pay-per-view main card. First matchup, Mark Bocek versus John Alessio. John Alessio was coming in on short notice, but his better boxing and also the defensive wrestling I'd seen him display in his last fight led me to believe he could be victorious, nullify the wrestling, and win a decision with an accumulation of punches. That was a hope, and I severely, underestimated the wrestling abilities of Mark Bocek. Bocek got the fight to the ground, uses Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, remained in control, landed some ground and pound. Alessio never left a hole open for his submission, and Mark Bocek rides out a unanimous decision victory. So we had the decision unanimously, just going the wrong way. Next matchup, Mark the Machine Hominick versus Eddie, the Filipino phenom, Yagin. We had predicted Hominick to stay calm, cool, collected, use his more technical striking prowess, and end this fight in the second round with a TKO. We go to what happened in the fight. Both men come out guns a-blazing. Eddie Yagin throws every strike to knock you out. Every strike with full force and momentum. And in the first round and second round, Yagin is able to clip and drop Hominick. The big difference in the striking also came at this point. When Hominick gets dropped, Yagin both times was able to jump on top and throw a flurry of ground and pound strikes that counted towards the compy strike. Throughout the rounds, once Hominick was able to stand back up, he was able to recollect himself and use the jab, and both men were bloodied by the end of this fight. Once we went to the judges' scorecards, those two knockdowns really did play a part. A split decision, 2-1 for Yagin. Eddie Yagin, 29-28 in two scorecards with those two knockdowns in the first two rounds, wins a striking battle with Hominick. Then in the third round, Hominick completely was dominant in picking Yagin apart with the jab. Mark Hominick looked visibly disappointed after this loss. Back to the drawing board for Hominick. Just doesn't look the same without Sean Tompkins. And in this fight, the worst part about the way Hominick looked was he was just so one-dimensional. Not using his kickboxing, only using boxing, not going for any takedowns. He was even able to take down Jose Aldo, we remember, once upon a time ago, but did not even look for or attempt these techniques. Really one-dimensional, just throwing his fists. Back to the drawing board for Mark Hominick. Eddie Yagin looked amazing, throwing everything with violent intentions, looked much faster, much crisper and everything. Be interesting to see who Yagin gets for his next fight. Next matchup we're talking about after this, Miguel Angel Torres versus Michael Mayday McDonald. We had predicted that Torres could win this fight with the unanimous decision, keeping it at length. If he gets on the ground, we knew he had a distinct advantage. It would be how would it play out, but I thought if Miguel Torres is able to find that happy medium that he kept talking about all week, I think I bought a little too much into the hype. I had picked him to win with the unanimous decision, knowing very well full much that Michael Mayday McDonald has excellent power in his hands, and he displayed that, catching Torres with an uppercut in the first round, dropping Torres and ending the fight, a TKO in the first round. Michael Mayday McDonald, the sky is the limit, the hype is real. This kid deserves to be in the top 10 of the bantamweight division, and sometime in the future I believe that we'll see a mega fight, Michael Mayday McDonald and Renan Barão. They are the future of the bantamweights in the UFC. Next fight we're talking about, Brendan the Hybrid Schaub versus Big Ben Rothwell. These are two heavyweights that like to strength, and that both win the majority of their fights with the TKO. We predicted a TKO in the first round for Ben and Schaub. We'll go to what happened. The two men start off striking. The most surprising factor of this fight was Ben Rockwell walked into the weigh-ins on Friday, actually, in the best shape anyone's ever seen him in. We go to the fight, wondering how that would translate. Schaub starts off aggressive, actually hit Rockwell with a spinning elbow that seemed to hurt him, had Rockwell stumbling. They come to close quarters and start brawling, and Schaub gets hit in the right side, right behind his ear, loses his equilibrium, goes to the ground, and a little bit later the ref's waking him up, telling him, "You've lost." Ben Rockwell won with the first round TKO. We said someone would get knocked out with the heavyweights, and someone did. Rockwell was victorious. Now we're all the way up to the co-main event. Roy Aries McDonald versus Che Beautiful Mills. We predicted that the grappling abilities of McDonald would take over, that he would get this fight to the ground, he would beat Mills up, and then he'd be able to finish it off, I thought, with a submission, winning with an arm bar. Mills did come out aggressive with the striking and looked to have rocked, possibly hurt Roy McDonald, but McDonald grabs the takedown, gets it, got on top, and just starting unleashing ground and pound. Heavy, vicious, violent strikes, hurting Mills. Mills survives to the second round. In the third round, right back to the ground. McDonald advances to mount on Mills. Mills bucks, gives up his back. McDonald unleashes ground and pound, and the fight is stopped. Second round TKO for Rory McDonald, who could be the future of the welterweight division, could be the future of the middleweight division. We know every time he's in the octagon, he improves by leaps and bounds. Now we go to the main event. Jon Jones, Sugar Rashad Evans, light heavyweight title grudge match. Here it is, time to settle it. If you listen to my prediction, I had already alerted everyone to not expect a brawl. They both keep talking about how emotional it was, but I knew this was going to be a technical fight. What did we get? A technical fight that throughout the first round, Jon Jones controlled the pace, was pushing Rashad towards the cage, had the center of it, was picking Rashad apart until Rashad lands a big head kick, and Jones spends the last 10 seconds trying to avoid any more damage of that round. So the first round was close, but from the second through the fifth round, Jon Jones using hand fighting, getting in close, grabbing Rashad Evans, landing elbows, picking him apart with his left jab, hitting him with leg kicks. All 4 rounds after the first were just the same thing consistently. Jon Jones landed a lot more than Rashad Evans, a lot of significant strikes. I wouldn't call this a complete domination. 2 refs saw it 49-46. 1 ref saw it 50-45. But the fact remains, Jon Jones is a future legend and is still the UFC light heavyweight champion of the world. Rashad Evans got beat up a little bit, caught the jabs, got caught in the head with a bunch of elbows. Hard, tough fight. Hopefully the two men put aside this grudge match, this vendetta. Hopefully it's all settled now. Jon Jones is still the champion. Cage Minds, we were 5-7 on our picks. That will teach me to read too many articles and then change my May Day and Bocek picks at the last minute because I read too much on John Alessio and Miguel Torres. This has been Cage Minds. We'll live, we'll learn, we'll try to do better next time. Hit us up on Twitter, Facebook, subscribe to the channel, like the videos, uncage the warrior within yourself, and have a good night.